Hi, my name is Troy Tueller. Uh, Very excited to talk about the topic at hand today. So, for a while now, I've been wanting to make sort of like a tier list or a ranking of all the states for arm wrestling, right? Like the strongest states in the nation, which are they, right? So I was going to kind of collect my own data and kind of figure it out myself. Just look at the recent results with the past over the past few years and kind of figure it out. But thankfully, uh, there was a huge update to AERS. So if you don't know what AERS is, the arm wrestling ELO rating system, pretty self-explanatory. It's just a rating system for the arm wrestlers in North America. If you didn't know about this and you're an arm wrestler, it's highly likely that if you've competed in a tournament in the nation, that you could probably find your data here, your wins, your losses, everything right here. It's important to understand the difference between a rating system and a ranking system, right? Because a ranking system is more kind of like, not even a ranking system, but just a ranking is something that's more opinion based and can often be biased. But the point of a rating system is that it is more of like a point system. There is a lot more actual data and math involved that can calculate how good an individual might be, right? Now it says here at the bottom, for example, the ELO rating system measures relative skill levels. After each match, ratings adjust based on the outcome and strength of opponents. Higher rated wins against lower rated opponents yield smaller gains, right? So, people who are ranked higher than you beat them, you get more points. If you beat somebody who has less points than you, you're not going to get that much of a reward, right? So you can look at all this and you can find so much data on so many arm wrestlers, see how often they compete, who they've beaten, the tournaments they've participated in, everything. There's a lot of data, even from tournaments from decades ago, right? Now, obviously, this is super beneficial because you get a better idea of just like everything that's going on. But of course, a rating system isn't necessarily perfect when trying to make a ranking of athletes, right? Now, with this recent update in AERS, there was a new feature called the power ranking system. And basically how that works is it analyzes an athlete's wins and losses and tries to determine the actual value of each of those wins and losses, because some people might have a decently high rating system and or a decently high rating, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the people that they're rated higher than they can beat, right? Like sometimes somebody with a lower rating than you can beat you. It's entirely possible. But with the power rankings, it looks at your data, it sees how, like often you've been competing, and it gives a more accurate kind of like closer to the lines of a ranking to, for all the athletes in all the different weight classes. So it's really cool. I don't want to get like too detailed with all this. You can definitely check it out yourself. Once again, if you haven't looked at this yourself, definitely do. AERSarm.com. It even works on mobile. I highly recommend you check it out. Now, getting to the meat and potatoes of this video is the state power tiers. So this is pretty much what I've been wanting to do. Huge shout out to Frank Callahan, who's kind of like the behind the scenes, programmer for AERS. I reached out to him, pitched this idea, and he helped me kind of bring it into reality and make it public to where anybody can see this. And of course, huge thanks to Cory Miller. AERS is pretty much his baby, his project, and he's done a lot for it. So yeah, big shout out to those two gentlemen. Thank you guys. It's awesome that this can be a thing. But anyways, so to summarize this, what the state power tiers is that it's analyzing the power rankings. And so for example, it is looking here, if you look at this filter, at the top 10 in each and every weight class. So if you're ranked number 1 in a weight class, you are giving 10 points to your state, the state that you live in, right? And it goes in a descending order, as you'll see here. Number 2 gets 9 points, number 3 gets 8 points, all the way down to where number 10 gives 1 point, right? But you can change the filter to where it looks at the top 20, so then it hands out actually even more points, and it's collecting a wider range of different arm wrestlers, like getting more and more people involved, right? Or you can make it smaller and just look at, the best of the best, only the top 3 in each weight class. Pretty simple, right? But what's so awesome about this, and obviously you can check it out yourself, I'll be looking at it a little bit here, is you can just really get an idea of where the states actually stand. You know what I mean? You can look at some of the best athletes they possibly have, and you can see how strong the states are. Now, obviously, one state is certainly in the lead. It's pretty obvious. They got a very dense population just in general, but they have a wide variety of very strong athletes. I mean, you can just read off any of these names. Solid guys, right? Now, some very important things that I have to go over. The only way to make this more accurate, because of course, with this whole system, there are people that will look at it and just be like, oh, this isn't accurate. Oh, yada, yada, yada. The only way to make this more accurate and just bigger and better is if people go out and compete and add the data to the system, right? You go and compete in a tournament, you win, you lose, it goes into the system, everything becomes even more accurate, right? So with time, this can only get better. However, there are things that can happen right now that can make everything way more accurate, right? So as you'll see here in the power rankings, when you click on a name, you can pull up their profile, and same thing on mobile, is just below their name, it'll show where they're from, so just the abbreviation for their state. So Wallace Dilly, of course, is from Nebraska, and so since he's ranked number 1 in the supers, right-handed, he gives 10 points to Nebraska. However, there are some people that are ranked pretty high. For example, Adam Hoying, who I'm unfamiliar with, but he's in the top 20 in the supers, and so therefore he could be giving points to his state. But that's just the issue, is unfortunately we don't know exactly where he's from because of a lack of data. However, you can very easily, and there's a way to make your own kind of account on AERS where you link it to your email, and then you can kind of claim your athlete profile, like, okay, yeah, like this is me, this is my data, right? But you don't even need to do that to do what I'm about to show you now. So with Adam, maybe Adam himself or someone he knows could go into AERS and click this button, which is at the top right, you'll see here, and it should be the same case for mobile. You'll click this and you just put in the 2-letter abbreviation for the state, right? So if it's like Nebraska, like Wallace Dilly, it's just NE. If it's Utah, it's UT. Pretty simple, right? Whatever your state is, you put in that abbreviation. Now AERS has the data, and now the points can be distributed in the state tier list, right? So if you look here at the bottom, at the very, very bottom, 33 scoring slots, which means 161 points belong to athletes with no state on file and are not shown. So there are so many points, so many athletes that unfortunately would show up here, but we just don't know where they're from because that data isn't in AERS. So once again, if you're an arm wrestler, definitely look yourself up, put your state under your name, tie it to your name, so that way all this data can be even more accurate. And so then, people aren't left out, right? And once again, you'll also scroll at the bottom here, and you'll see like some of the unranked states. And really, depending on how wide you make the field and like kind of capturing as many people as possible, there, the more states will actually be ranked. And there's some others like smaller, kind of funnier issues here, like Ontario or like even just Canada as a country. Right here, Canada as a country being involved in the state rankings, but just some slight errors, I think, which could very easily be fixed. And I think the reason why it's picking that up actually is because, AERS is a North American rating system, so of course, Canada getting picked up is no surprise. But it is interesting to see, where Canada lies as well as a whole, I guess, even though this, clearly there are many athletes that haven't put their precise location, their precise province, if that's how you say it, connected to their profile. But anyway, just some slight things that could definitely use some tweaking. But otherwise, this is a very exciting feature. Awesome to see, people can now look at this and understand where the power lies, right? The people that are trying to like prove themselves, they think they're really good and are trying to like go out and compete. You can look at this and prioritize your tournaments. You can go to the West Coast and try to fuck around with the Californians and compete with some very high level athletes and test yourself, right? Because there are definitely those guys that are beating everybody at their practice, or everybody in their weight class in their state, but they don't really get out much. So now you can maybe look at it and be like, oh, how good is my state actually, right? So yeah, no, very exciting. Awesome to look at. This will only get bigger. This will only get more interesting as time goes on. And obviously, we need to do something about California because this is bullshit. But I will say a little thing I'm going to kind of just show you real quick. If we look at the divisions and if we specify it to ladies as well, I believe. Just saying. But anyway, very exciting. I definitely recommend you guys check this out yourself. Mess around with the filters. They're pretty self-explanatory. You can kind of get a good idea of how it works just by messing around with it a little bit. But once again, super exciting. Very thankful for Frank Callahan. You're the man. And, of course, Cory for making this happen. But, yeah, no. Recommend you guys check this out yourself. And, yeah, have a good time. Keep training. Get stronger. Thank you guys for watching.